Welcome to the OK Not OK podcast. I am Doktor O'Kay, and I am sorry you had to see the SportsZu being a stupid idiot on yesterday's show, but let's ignore him for now and get right to our first Who's Next of 2025, where I tell you two wrestlers who should be the top two contenders for each title on the main roster, and then one who shouldn't. So with that, let's start with Raw in the World Heavyweight Championship, where Gunther defeated Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event, but then Jey went on out and won the entire Royal Rumble, so we will leave him here for now as the presumed pick for the World Heavyweight Championship, since he's a Raw superstar, but we're going to exclude him officially from this here list, and we'll say that the new number one contender should be CM Punk, making his first official appearance. He has finally earned it, winning 4 straight one-on-one matches, including his last 2 against Drew McIntyre, and then defeating Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, so he is now qualified for the Elimination Chamber. Second on this list is still Seth Rollins, though he does drop one spot because he lost to CM Punk on the Netflix premiere of Raw, but he's still 3-2 in one-on-one matches since returning in November, and he has the same record as McIntyre, but he gets the edge by beating him. But who shouldn't be next for this title? The easy answer is Sami Zayn, but we don't like to give the same person twice in a row, so we will remind you instead that Logan Paul hasn't won since last WrestleMania, going 0-4 in all matches since then, and even though he said he wants to challenge Gunther, we have no reason to give him that shot. So let's go to the Women's World Championship, now held by Rhea Ripley, who defeated Liv Morgan on the Netflix premiere of Raw, and Charlotte Flair won the Rumble, and she appeared on Raw on Monday and also on NXT this week, and she'll do the same thing tomorrow on SmackDown. But with Charlotte's vignettes appearing on SmackDown for the last several weeks, we will assume that she'll stay there and eventually challenge Tiffany Stratton. Just like Jey, though, will exclude her from either of these lists. So that takes us to our number one contender for Rhea, assuming it's not Charlotte, and that is, well, it's Liv Morgan. I hate to break it to you because we are all tired of this matchup, but we've only had one singles match between two female Raw superstars since the conclusion of the Women's IC tournament, and Liv won that match this week on Raw by defeating Io. And yeah, she still has won 5 of her last 7 one-on-one matches, and that is way better than anyone else, so Liv remains at number 1. And at number 2, it's Io Sky, which is mostly by default, and so she stays in this exact same spot. She has surprisingly lost 3 straight one-on-one matches, but a 5-4 singles record since SummerSlam is still much better than anyone else. And who shouldn't be next? We're gonna go with Bayley, who is 5-5 in singles matches, and she's also lost 3 straight singles matches herself, but since moving to Raw, she is 0-2, so she needs to win a few matches first. Next, for the Men's Intercontinental Championship, Bron Breakkers barely appeared on Raw since it moved over to Netflix, and he is not happy about it, but he still managed to defeat Sheamus yet again on Saturday night's main event, so the number one contender should be Penta. Yeah, this is a very easy call. He's shooting all the way up to number 1 after starting his WWE career at 3-0 in one-on-one matches, defeating 3 gentlemen who'd probably like to challenge for this title. And surely everyone wants to see this match, and they certainly should get it. And at number 2 is Rey Mysterio. The Hall of Famer racked up wins in back-to-back weeks against both members of the New Day, and that makes him 2-1 in one-on-one matches this year, and 4-2 in his last 6 one-on-one matches, even though we do have to go all the way back to July for the first of those wins. But the IC title picture should now be in his sights, and that's plenty good. And who shouldn't be next? is AJ Styles, as his name was invoked by Breakker on Raw after Adam Pearce announced that he was moving on over to Raw in the transfer window. And Breakker is right, because Styles should stay away from him because he's old and should retire and never wins any matches, because he went 1-7 in one-on-one matches last year and 3-8-1 overall in singles matches. He certainly needs to win some matches on Raw before he deserves a shot. Now for the women's IC title, Lyra Valkyria defeated Dakota Kai to become the first ever women's IC champion, and then she hasn't done anything since then, but oh well, neither has anyone else. So at number 1, we have to put Dakota Kai pretty much by default, as she's the only Raw female with recent success, because she at least got to the finals, so she had to get a couple wins, and that makes her 2-2 in her last 4 singles matches since November. And football players seem to magically recover from concussions in 1 week, so certainly Dakota will be back very soon. And at number 2, we have Zoe Stark. I guess we kind of just have to leave her here almost by default as well, because at least she had won 2 straight singles matches before losing in the semis of the IC tournament. And who shouldn't be next? We'll go with Ivy now, and she appears set on challenging Lyra, and she is on a 1-match, 1-on-1 winning streak, but that was just a random win versus Zelina Vega in October, and she actually finished 2024 at 2-9-1 in singles matches, so yeah, that's not screaming a contender for this title. For the World Tag Team titles, we have the War Raiders remaining the champs by beating Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough of the Judgment Day when Finn Balor was too hurt to participate. And now, of course, JD McDonough is going to be out for quite a while, so he won't be fighting in those matches either. But who's the number 1 contenders? It should be, and it looks like it might actually be, the Creed brothers, and they also stay at number 1 by default because they haven't even had a match since Thanksgiving, but yet they've still won 4 of their last 5 to end the year above 500 in traditional tags. And at number 2, I can't believe they're back on the list, but it is the New Day, as they won the only other men's tag match on Raw in 2025. And despite an embarrassing loss to the Alpha Academy, they are actually 500 at 2-2 in traditional tags since October. Now, who shouldn't be next? We're going to say just any Judgment Day combination since November. Any men's tag match with the Judgment Day, they are 1-4 in all tags, and I assume Balor is going to be fine since he appeared in the Rumble, but McDonough is going to be out now, so we still have Carlito, who's pretty much never in a match, and then also Dom and Balor, so yeah, they're just out of the picture right now. And let's switch on over to SmackDown for the Undisputed WWE Championship that Cody Rhodes retained against Kevin Owens in a ladder match at the Royal Rumble. Now, Randy Orton has not had a singles win since August, so I guess I can only hold his memorial spot open for so long, so we're finally going to remove him. So that means we need a new number 1, and we are hot-shotting Damian Priest right to the top. He won his debut match on SmackDown 2 weeks ago, and then won a tag match last week. Now, that one doesn't really count, but at least he's showing that he's showing up and participating in matches, and so he is 3-0 since losing his title shot against Gunther. And at number 2, we are moving Braun Strowman from the IC title to the Undisputed WWE title list. And no, he should not have beaten Jacob Fatu, but regardless, he did beat him. And I guess that kind of evens things out because he lost to Hayes by throwing him back into the ring. So I guess we're all square, and he is 4-1 in his last 5 one-on-one matches. Who shouldn't be next? We're going to say it's now Kevin Owens. And even though KO is right, but he's also got to be done for now, as he's 2-3-1 in one-on-one matches going back to Bash in Berlin, with all 3 losses were those title losses to Rhodes, so he simply has to take a step back for now. Up next for the Women's WWE Championship, we had Tiffany Stratton cash in, finally, on Nia Jax on the first SmackDown of 2025, and she defeated Bayley in her first defense a couple weeks later. So who's the new #1 contender? It's who should have always been the #1 contender, and that is Nia Jax, because she strangely got to challenge Rhea Ripley before getting her completely appropriate rematch with Tiffy. Nonetheless, she started 2025 at 2-2 in one-on-one matches, but that's really beside the point there because, I mean, getting cashed in on, you really should get a chance at a rematch from that. At number 2 is Naomi, and she's back in our ranks, as it seems to be that she's in every other time. Nonetheless, she is still 4-2 in her last 6 one-on-one matches, and she got whacked in the head by the briefcase to lose her last title shot against Nia right before that cash-in, so I think she probably should get another shot. And who shouldn't be next? It's Zelina Vega. She immediately moved to SmackDown and found Tiffany Stratton, saying that she's looking to go after her title, which, I mean, she should keep dreaming because she went 1-11 in singles matches in 2024, so maybe SmackDown will treat her better, but for now, go out and win a couple matches, Zelina. Next, for the men's United States title, we have Shinsuke Nakamura retaining the title on January 10th when, well, the Tongans interfered after Knight had landed a BFT on him, so he should probably thank his lucky stars for that. And that means LA Knight still deserves another shot at that US title, and even though Fatu and Tonga have hounded him ever since, he still has an unbelievable 12-2 record in his last 14 singles matches, even with the Rumble included. At number 2, we're gonna go with Apollo Crews here, because now we're in Crews Can't Lose version 2.0, except it looks like he got injured winning that last match, so we might not see him for a while. Nonetheless, he still deserves a shout out for being 3-0 in his last 3 one-on-one matches. And who shouldn't be next for this title? It's The Miz. He's now approaching a year since his last singles win, which was all the way back on February 5th, 2024, and he is 0-9 since then. And I guess it just makes sense that a lot of these shouldn't be's are those who have moved over from Raw to SmackDown or from SmackDown to Raw, because they clearly needed a change of scenery. Next, for the Women's United States title, Chelsea Green, I guess, deserves some credit for being a fighting champion, as she already has 2 defenses against Michin, but that second one was only due to her whacking Michin with Michin's own kendo stick. But I guess that means we have to leave Michin at number 1, and even though Nick Aldis said that the last time was her last shot, well, she only doesn't have the title due to that kendo finish. So she has to get one more chance, right? And also, even worse than that, no one else really deserves a shot anyways. So even with the Rumble, she does have a good record of 7-3 in her last 10 singles matches. So yeah, she's got to get one more shot. And at number 2, I can't believe she's made this list, but that is how dire this situation is. It is indeed Chelsea's secret Hervis member, Piper Niven, because she is on a 1-match winning streak, and that win was against b-fab. And that was after going 0-11 in singles matches in 2024. But hey, it's a new year, so why not? She is 1-0 in 2025. And who shouldn't be on the list? We just talked about her. It's b-fab. It is nice to see her get some time in the ring, and she even has a tag victory, but she's never won a singles match on the main roster. And in fact, she only has one and only singles win in NXT, which was all the way back in September of 2021. Up next is the WWE Tag Team Championships, which DIY retained against the Motor City Machine Guns at the Royal Rumble in a 2 out of 3 falls match. with a little bit of help from the Street Profits. But speaking of the Street Profits, they were supposed to get the last title shot when they were attacked from backstage, and well, even with that, they deserve this chance because they are 5-1 in their last 6 traditional tags, and now that they're healthy, they certainly deserve the first shot, just not with a crutch. And at number 2, we have to have the Motor City Machine Guns with 2 very tough title chances that went to waste. First, because Los Garza and Pretty Deadly fell on top of them when they had submissions locked in, and secondly, because the Street Profits interfered right before they were able to hit the Skull and Bones. Because of that, they are just 3-1 since November 15, so that's not particularly great, but certainly very much well worth being number 2. And who shouldn't be next? It is Pretty Deadly. We've had a surprisingly good assortment of matches in 2025 with the addition of a 3rd hour of SmackDown, but one constant certainly remains, and that is Pretty Deadly losing, as they are 0-2 in 2025 and they have dropped 8 in a row. And lastly, for the Women's Tag Team Championships, we had Naomi officially earn Jade's title by beating Nia and Candice on December 20th, and they went and defended that title in NXT against the Meta Girls because no one gets more shots at the title than the Meta Girls. Regardless, at number 1 for the main roster, we have Liv and Raquel. They stay in this spot because they now have a 2-match winning streak. And in fact, that second win was when they beat the champs in a non-title match on Raw. And so sound the alarms because Bianca had won 18 traditional tag matches in a row until that loss, so you need to book this title match immediately. And at number 2, we have the former champions of Kai and Sky, but that was eons ago, as this was their first win as a duo in over 2 years when they defeated Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. And, well, that's all it takes to be a number 2 contender in this division. But who shouldn't be next? We have to talk again about Nia and Candice. Any combo of Nia, Candice, or Tiffy has lost 7 straight tag matches. But with Tiffy on to better things, we will at least note that Nia and Candice have lost 2 traditional tags themselves. And that is shockingly bad between this assortment of wrestlers. So we've had 3.5 new title holders, if you count Naomi taking Jade's title as a half, since our last Who's Next, which I have to say is pretty good. But what is not good was me breaking the camera yesterday, but that was only because the SportsZu is such a stupid idiot. And if you missed that, and all of my grades for each surprise return entrant in the Rumble, be sure to go right on over here and check that out, because if you don't, you will be just like the SportsZu, which is obviously not okay.